Ms. Raheel Raza. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's really an honor to be here, but I hope the irony of having a Muslim woman in the pub is not lost on you. Please ensure that these photographs don't get into the hands of any Islamists. I already have a death threat. I don't need any more. Thank you. I'm Muslim. I'm a Canadian. In terms of my national and political identity, my place and loyalty in this world as a citizen, I'm a Pakistani by birth, Canadian by choice, and Islam is my faith. But my faith does not take precedence over my duties and obligations to the land in which I freely immigrated 21 years ago. And I embraced the Constitution, which incidentally is in sync with my Islamic values. I guess what I want to do initially is differentiate between Islam, the spiritual message of the faith which I follow, and Islamism. Political Islam or Islamism. There have been some critique of the fact that the word Islamism is used, but it is political Islam. It's but the spiritual message of the faith, as I said, the one that I follow, is a human rights, peace, tolerance, compassion, mercy. It was George Bernard Shaw who actually upheld the religion of Muhammad, as he says, in high estimation, quote unquote, because of its vitality and diversity. And that is how it was created. It's the youngest of the three Abrahamic faiths. During the Prophet's time, the only political document that existed was called the Charter of Medina, or the Constitution of Medina, which unfortunately 99% Muslims have not really read, otherwise they'd know what, when it speaks about human rights, women's rights, rights of minorities, it's lying in the ashes of history. But political Islam, or Islamism, is something entirely different. It is a political ideology, which is an armed political ideology similar to Bolshevism and Maoism, and these, by the way, are the words of Daniel Pipes. Just as communism was an internationalist movement with an internationalist agenda of subverting freedom and subverting democracies, similarly today, Islamism is a global threat. It is engaged in a worldwide effort to subvert democracies and expand the space for the implementation of their own ideology. And this ideology has not based, as I said, in the text of our scripture. This ideology is an ideology that has been created much later in history. It derives from Islamism, political Islam, but it is anti-modern, misanthropic, misogynist, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, jihadist, terroristic, and a suicidal version. It's what we call Islamic favored totalitarianism. It exists in this country, it exists all over the Western world, because through billions of petrodollars, the Saudis have exported this ideology. It is called Salafism or Wahhabism to all parts of the world. I think those of you who are in Britain are a little more unfortunate, because the impact here has been far more than it has been in North America, although we in Canada are also dealing with this at many levels. The ideology basically considers Jews and Christians to be sinners, and if you have read the news at Queen's Mary University, Abu Usama spoke recently, called Christians and Jews pathological liars, said that they were liable to be killed. Now, there is a rise of Islamism all over the world, but the unfortunate part and the irony of this movement is that it not only targets non-Muslims, but Muslims as well. In fact, more Muslims have been killed in Muslim countries by other Muslims because of sectarian violence and because they don't agree. Now, I come from an interesting background because I was born into a Sunni family. I married a Shia and my children are Sushis. And so, 30 years, sorry about that. They hate being called Sushis, but they sort of are. They're half Sunni, half Shia. And 30 years ago, we fled Pakistan because we saw the writing on the wall, so to speak. One of our presidents, called Zia-ul-Haq, was taking huge funding from Saudi Arabia, and he started implementing this in-your-face Islamism, a political ideology, which actually has taken about 30 years to grow. So there's an entire generation out there that actually upholds this ideology. BBC did a documentary last year in January, a three-part documentary of an hour each, called Generation Jihad. And I would suggest that you see it, although a lot of Muslims say it's fear-mongering. But essentially what they've done is they've traveled all over the globe and spoken to young people who were born here. You know, you have this term here, homegrown, which means that Muslim youth who are born and bred up in the West, how do they become radical? How do they become jihadis? How do they become, Islamists? And this is a question that I asked my two sons. I have two sons who are now 25 and 27. They are totally Canadian in their outlook, but they fit the profile of that Muslim terrorist because that's who they are. They're Pakistani origin, they are brown with beards, so to speak. So I asked them after 9/11, why aren't you terrorists? And they looked at me like I've lost my marbles. Sometimes I do, of course, but that's a whole other story. And I said to them, I ask you this because this is a question that's put to me. You know, they are after all Muslim. And you know, we've narrowed it down to many issues. One of them, the education that they are getting at home. The other one, what is being taught to them as the spiritual message of the faith. And I do want to identify that those are two entirely separate things. You know, at times it feels that there are two parallel streams running, the political message. Now, there are scholars who say that the politicization of Islam actually took place on the deathbed of the Prophet. But there is a whole historical context which we don't have time to go into. But if you want to read more about this Wahhabi Salafi ideology from Saudi Arabia, if you go to my website, I have a recommended reading list. And there are two excellent books. One is called The Other Islam, and the other one is called The Two Faces of Islam, in which an author by the name of Stephen Schwartz has given the entire history of the movement which has actually radicalized Muslims to a great extent. Now, the Quilliam Foundation here, who is a think tank, and of course now there are think tanks all over, has done research and has come up with this brilliant three-pronged reason, sort of, why radicalization is growing so much. And they speak about grievances. So what they're saying is essentially they have three grievances, and of course these grievances are either real or concocted. Now everyone knows that there are issues, social, economic issues in every country. That I support the existence of Israel, and that's one of the reasons that I have the death threats. And by the way, before I forget, if there are any Jewish people in this audience, we actually always bring greetings to the chosen people from the frozen people. We are the frozen people. But this is one of the issues. So at the United Nations, anytime the word Islam or Muslim is mentioned in terms of aberration of human rights, but look at the human rights aberrations in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and in many Muslim countries. You can't talk about it because they start banging on the table. So they block any dialogue that has the word Islam or Muslim. They have only one agenda at the Human Rights Commission. That is to bar anything that deals with Israel and the United States, and to support each other regardless of what is being said. I mean, this is a blanket support. It's really hard, and this is where we understand the power. Now, very quickly, the rise of these Salafi Wahhabi movements in the Arab world have been after the oil embargo, after the Iranian Revolution. You know, the rise in the prices of oil empowered them to hold the rest of the world hostage. Of course, until you stop driving your cars, they're going to be able to do that. So, it's not just religious problems. This is not just based in faith. There is a much larger political, social, economic issue here.